All right, hello everyone. My name is Brandy Martinez, and this is my introductory video for Module 1, Various Communication Forms. Okay, so some personal demographics about me. So I am a mom, wife, teacher, and youngin', and aspiring to one day inspire. So I feel like that is a very loaded statement. It has a lot of different things, and it kind of encompasses everything about me, really. So I am a mom to two beautiful children. They are 2 and 2, so my life is just a little bit hectic right now. I have a daughter who's 2, and then my son is 7 months. So a little busy, but so much fun, but busy. I'm a wife as well, so my husband and I have been married for 3 years, and we've been together for about 8. He is kind of that person who is supportive all the time and is, pushing and helping me along the way. So love him. I'm a teacher. I've been teaching this is my 6th year. I am currently teaching at a middle school. I teach 6th grade, and I teach the computer applications class. We actually call it Connect, but it is really computer applications. Before I was teaching 6th grade, I was a 5th grade teacher. I did that for 2 years at an elementary school. I loved it, but whenever I moved to the middle school, I just was like, wow, this is so much better. So I have a heart for elementary school teachers, and I will always, always root for them because they have a lot on their plate. And I feel like anyone that has any stake in education needs to be an elementary school teacher at some point in time in their life. Maybe they need to go observe in there. They need to see what's going on because it is a lot. That last part there, youngin', aspiring to one day inspire. So I am 27. I would say I'm young, but obviously that's a little subjective. But I feel like, aspiring to one day inspire is something that I'm always thinking of that. I know that saying that, maybe it feels like, well, that should just be something that comes naturally. And yes, I hope it is going to come naturally, obviously, but it's something that is in the back of my head. Like, how can I make things better? So the next point there, born and raised in Southwest Kansas. So this is kind of what I've known my whole entire life. It's pretty quiet down here. There is a big population of Hispanic. We have a big Hispanic population, which is wonderful, because next point, I'm the daughter of immigrants. So I've been kind of taught my whole life how to work really hard and, go after the things that I want, because that's exactly what my parents did. So those two kind of go together. And then also, I guess with that last one, I'm pursuing this building leadership endorsement because I want to be a positive role model in my community, and because I've had such great experiences with building administrators. So I really just kind of want to give back to the community that I grew up in, because when I was growing up, I really didn't see people who looked like me. And, oddly enough, there was such a big Hispanic population already, but Hispanics were not in positions of leadership. I think really these past 5 years that's changed, specifically in the city that I'm in, or city, Dodge City, Kansas, if you know about it. But that's something that, I feel really passionately about, because I feel like my students and the community needs to see people in leadership positions that look like them. So something that I'm very excited for. Okay, so forms of communication, I've kind of laid them out from the ones that I use the most, or the ones that I feel like are the most important, or the ones that I feel like I like to use the most. And the first one is talking points. This is provided by our district. It is a way for us to access all of our students' families, and we can send mass messages or announcements or direct messages to each of our families. So it's really nice, because sometimes you just want to send a message to a parent and tell them, hey, your kid did something great, or send them a message and, kind of had a warning of, hey, your kid didn't do so great today. How can I help? What can I do? So it's kind of like you're texting, but it's just a little bit more formal. And then we can also, have all of those messages later for documentation, which is also great. The district also sends out talking points. Families can either choose to receive them as a text message, or they can also download the app and then they can kind of subscribe to it that way. But everyone gets a text message, which is great. So anytime we've had any like emergency things happening at the schools, just anything that parents need to be notified by, they receive a talking point. And it also allows for you to translate and for parents or guardians to receive messages in their language of choice, which is also amazing. The second is phone calls, because sometimes talking points are not answered, and then it feels like, I really need to make a phone call and I need to have an actual conversation. Obviously, when it's a very serious matter, or I really need to, or when I feel like I need to have a conversation with parents specifically, I always will use a phone call. But I kind of do talking points first, just to kind of gauge where we're at. And then, I can always schedule a phone call through talking points, which is also nice. The next is face-to-face. We have conferences, we have meetings with different teachers. Our district sets up 2 conferences every year, one in the fall and one in the spring. Those are mandatory. Our building expects us to have face-to-face contact with all of our families. The phone call is the last resort. So this is something that I feel our school really prides itself on, and really our district, because we want to make sure that we're having 100% contact with all of our parents. It's important, and we try to have our families understand that it is important. So I know that in our specific building, if we can't contact parents and we can't get a hold of them through phone calls, our building administrators do home visits, which, it might sound a little crazy, but it's important, because we want to know what's going on. Why are you not coming to the conference? Why are you not answering phone calls? This is your child, their education. So it's kind of a big deal for us. We can also always set up meetings with parents at our own discretion. We meet a team of teachers every single day. So we talk about students, and we use that time also to have conferences with parents if we feel like it's necessary. Finally, email and text messages. So we're emailing with teachers throughout the day, group text with teachers for safety and updates. So our safety team has told us to, make a group text with all the teachers, so that if we are missing kids for whatever reason, or if something's going on and we need to be notified, we can just talk to each other that way. So all the different forms of communication that I feel like I use currently. Okay, so a little bit of reflecting over these resources. So the first one with Zach Mercurio, How to Powerfully Introduce Yourself with Purpose. So I feel like I really liked this one because it allowed me to reflect on stories that I want to tell someone when I'm meeting them for the first time. I feel like when I introduced myself earlier, I feel like I tried to take a little page out of this, because I feel like it's an important thing to share a story. Whenever I want to have that first impression with a staff, and especially if I'm going to be the person that, is going to be the person that's in charge, I want to make sure I'm building relationships with them and sharing my story in a way that they can see me as a human being. I feel like this is something that I do with my students, because especially 6th graders, sometimes they really don't care about what's going on with your life. But I make it a point to tell them, hey, look, I'm a person just like you are. So I'm going to have days where maybe I'm not going to come in here and be 100, because I know that that's going to happen to you, and that's okay. So, kind of having a story allows for personal connection, which is so important. The next was how to introduce with Karen Gross, how you introduce yourself really matters, especially now. So I felt like this article was very interesting because of that negative interaction that she had had with a cardiologist. When I was reading it, I feel like I thought of some experiences that I've had with important people that hold a title, because most of the time, people who are important that hold a very high title, they have always introduced themselves to me using their first and last name and kind of putting that title to the side, which is wonderful. I feel like it says a lot about their character. And they've always been people who are very easy to work with. Now, I have had instances where maybe I have met someone who talks to me only using their title. And I feel like in a way it's kind of like a power move. So I feel like, I completely understood where she was coming from, but then I also could understand, some people, that's not like the cardiologist. I don't know if it was such a big deal, but I could see where she was coming from, where, he could have just told her he was a cardiologist. But there are other people that maybe that wouldn't have been necessary with, people who would have enjoyed the fact that he introduced himself as a heart doctor, because maybe they wouldn't have understood what cardiologist was. So I think at the end of the day, once again, it's just kind of making sure that you're knowing who your audience is, who the people are that you are talking to, taking a little bit of time to understand who they are so that you know how to gauge your conversations. Next was from Kara Kutrazula. So, how to introduce yourself so you'll be unforgettable in a good way. So, this article also encouraged me to think about being vulnerable when I introduced myself. So, I feel like I tried to once again do that at the beginning of my introduction. So, kind of giving you a little bit of a glimpse at my hopes and my dreams, aspiring to inspire. So I feel like it's important because this allows for that emotion and that personal connection. And I feel like that when I talk to someone, that's what I'm seeking. I'm seeking a personal connection. I want to see, where is it that we can meet in the middle, and would I want to continue this relationship further because of that personal connection. So whenever I introduce myself or whenever I want to talk to someone, I hope that that's what they can kind of gain from me, and they can think about it and I can make it a lasting impression. So, district strategic policies, I don't feel like I follow any of them because I'm not aware that I've ever been explicitly told where I can access these. We are always encouraged to use talking points because it is digital and we can reach so many parents that way. And then it's documented, which is really nice. But whenever I am reaching out to other stakeholders in the community or to parents, it's important to document those interactions and conversations, making sure to write up follow-up emails restating what was discussed in conversations, just so that you are able to make sure that everything is out on the table and you're not forgetting anything as well. Okay, so next is my correlation to CLO 5.3. So in the submission, I explored how various communication forms allow me to communicate with different stakeholders in my community, and I feel like I was able to dive deep into the importance of the quality of communication, specifically thinking about first-time introductions, since that's what those articles were about. I feel like in strengthening the way that I introduce myself to staff and stakeholders, I'm able to create those strong foundations for strong relationships later on. So something that is very important, that first impression introductions. I feel like today when I tried introducing myself, I tried thinking about that and thinking how I could make this authentic and genuine. So my relevancy statement, kind of the same thing. I need to understand the importance of those first impressions and introductions because, once again, they set the foundation for all other interactions. I also need to make sure that I'm exhausting all available resources and avenues to contact stakeholders, because when I think of the things that my building administrators do, they do absolutely everything in their power to make sure that they are communicating with all stakeholders. So, like I mentioned earlier, they will make home visits if they are not able to contact a parent. So they really are exhausting every avenue. And I feel like that's something that I need to work on and make sure that I am doing as well. And finally, my reflection. So I reflected on all the introductions that I have had to complete throughout my professional life. And I feel like in reading these different articles, I was able to kind of think of what I do. And I feel like something that I know I'm doing all the time is trying to create that story and trying to be authentic when I talk to someone. So I feel like hopefully as you read this, as I shared my story here with you today, you were able to make some connections and maybe relate some of my personal anecdotes with yours. So I'm very excited to see where we're going to go with this class. I know that this is the first module, but I'm excited to see what we learn together. So hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching.